Well, thank you so much, Debbie, for coming here to talk about gut health, the microbiome. And honestly, I don't exactly know what I'm going to get myself into in regards to this because I'm starting from I'm starting from scratch. And also I would love the collective, the audience to get to know how you began this from the beginning, what your inspiration was. So I guess the first question is, who are you? Um, Personal background would be great. And what got you into caring for your overall health and well-being?
I guess my mom, as growing up, she was always into all kinds of different types of healing and never really consistent with anything. It was just always something. So I was used to, growing up in a family where, we were all trying new things. After I got to be, and I was in my early 20s, I opened a business called the Therapeutic Body Center, which I've had for about 30 years. And I went to massage therapy school. Then I went to colon hydrotherapy school, and then I became a microscopist. And I just kept adding on more and more modalities to my education because I wanted to know everything. I love learning. And so in 2015, Dr. David Perlmutter wrote the book Brain Maker. And being a colon hydrotherapist in there, he showed where only 3% of probiotics make it from from your mouth down to the large intestine, where over 30% of your immune system, no, 70% of your immune system is. So I was seeing 52 butts a week. Doctors were sending me their patients and they were getting well. I also was attending a ministry school about 7 hours from my house for a year. So in the healing rooms where I was working, they brought me a little boy who was 5, and he had just started having brain seizures and hadn't had a bowel movement for 11 days. So, he's 7 hours from my house. I can't very well take him to my office and, give him a colonic and implant probiotics. So I took 10 shot glasses up there with coconut oil and probiotics. I mixed it up in these little shot glasses, stuck it in the freezer, rolled them into balls, put them into saran wrap, and said, put these where the sun doesn't shine and let's see what happens. And 3 days later, he had a large bowel movement and his seizures stopped. Yeah. And I still send him BumBiotics. He's 15 now. And that really had a huge impact because my heart is to help people, like, stopping for the one, it's like, how can we help people get well? And that's what feeds my heart and soul. So out of that, traveling with the ministry team all over the world, they can't come to see me either. So out of that came the BumBiotics, based on Dr. David Perlmutter's research and science, not on my own. So I really didn't have to invent them. I just had to do what he said and then figure out how to get it into a suppository mold. There currently are no companies in the United States who sell suppository filling and sealing equipment. None, zero. You can only go to China or Italy, and no suppository molds to purchase for this equipment. So I just had over 500,000 suppository molds coming in from Italy last week. And I got tariffs on top of that, so the shipping is supposed to be $3,100 and it's $6,500. And so, now I'm in the real world, you go, wow, everything that's happening. And I don't have any problems with that, but I just see the shift in people's awareness about gut health, and if 70+% of your immune system's in your large intestine, you just use a back door and get 100% of it instead of 3% when you take it orally. By the time it you swallow it, and it's usually in a capsule, right? And then goes through your digestive system, your stomach, the small intestine gets broken down and, finally gets into the large intestine. There's not a whole lot left. And that's according to his research. He's like, you're only getting 3% because of the digestive process. By the time it gets into the large intestine where it belongs, there's not a lot left. So why not just implant it where it goes? Get 100% of it. And it actually works, so that was exciting.
Yeah, I just put one in like a couple minutes ago before we
Oh,
came on.
a
It's
bumsicle.
so, A bumsicle. It's so interesting. It's so interesting. I'm feeling a clearing each in my throat.
Oh, wow.
Is I don't know. I don't, I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but
Sometimes people, when I was at the naturopathic doctors conference in August, I brought singles because they're more open, they understand the science behind it. And so some of the doctors would say, well, could you just peel one for me and I'll run over to the bathroom, and I would do that for, I did like 9 different doctors. And a few of them came back and said, could I feel something right away? Like, I'm noticing, a calmness, or, my headache's gone, or I'm like, yeah. And then there's some people, I had a lady with flesh eating disease who her husband every day would say, are you better? Are you better? Are you better? And she's like, I don't know. And then after 3 months, she went off of them because she couldn't really tell the difference, and then realized she was sleeping, her pain was gone, all of these things, but it was so gradual that she didn't really notice it. And some people have immediate reactions. It's like, oh, I feel different. So, you know, your body's innate immune system to heal itself is going to do different, because we're not, one size doesn't fit all. So this response is always different.
what are some of the common illnesses that you see in people who are looking to using BumBiotics?
Because it's used rectally, it's not people's first choice. The idea, especially guys, of putting something there, isn't commonplace in the United States, but in Europe it is. And I ship to Saudi Arabia and Singapore. I ship all over the world, and it's more readily accepted in other countries than it is in the US. But I am big in the C. diff community, autism, um, candida, those kinds of things, inflammation type of issues, like colitis, diverticulitis. A lot of people are using them, or doctors are using them sometimes instead of antibiotics for kidney infections. Women have been using them for vaginal infections, though there are some probiotics in there that aren't necessarily meant for the vaginal canal, but the body seems to just throw it off. There is a doctor that works with autistic kids who tests the children prior to using them, and then after 90 days, and it showed that it repopulated the microbiome. All the whole intestinal tract was repopulated. So that was great. I have another doctor right now who is doing clinical trials on autistic kids. So I'm interested to see how that shows up.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's exciting.
I have a question that I'm going to pull up because I want to I worded it in a way that, but I didn't remember it. Okay. Can you explain how gut health affects overall well-being and potentially any common environmental factors today affecting overall gut health, which the collective should be aware of?
So since the research shows that 70 plus, and now they're saying 80% of your immune system is in your large intestine, it's important that we uh, put the proper probiotics in there to keep them alive. So you can, like, doing, fermented foods is great. Doing all that stuff, that would be more like a prebiotic, right? So you're feeding the good bacteria in your gut, but you need to reestablish it. If you've ever been on antibiotics, you eat sugar, carbs, all the things that, every time you eat refined sugar, it shuts your immune system down for 3 to 4 hours. So the body is designed to heal itself. But if the mechanism, which is in your large intestine, is, 3/4 of that, then, if it doesn't have the right environment, it can't work. And the body usually heals from the inside out. So sometimes you don't even know what it's actually happening, but sometimes you do. So, one size doesn't fit all. And if you can get that terrain, it's kind of like I tell people, like a plant, right? If you're outside gardening and your flower is falling over, do you just, like, what do? You work the soil, right? You work the terrain. You put some fertilizer and you water it and you do all those things. You don't feed it peanut M&Ms. You don't tie it up with a stick and hope it stands up. So the body's the same way. If that environment, the terrain in your large intestine is where your healing system is, then you need to give it the right terrain, for it to be able to function properly. Did that answer the question? Yeah.
Oh, very much so.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm I naturally like I listen the best when I'm like aggressively nodding. So if you see me aggressively
Yeah.
nodding, like
Yeah.
I'm taking in the information.
Yeah. And sometimes I go off on a tangent and then I go back and go, did I answer the question?
Okay. Um, oh, actually, yeah, I wanted to mention that Sally Fallon Morell is she's like taking your company in one of her recent books. What's it? Natural Remedies,
Natural
right?
remedies, yeah. She told me, she came up to a booth at Western Price, and she told me that she's coming out with a new book called Natural Remedies, and that she's including BumBiotics in it. And to me, that was like, you know, the president of the United States, giving me kudos for something. And I'm like, wow, and I wanted to tell my family, and, but it had no meaning to them because they don't walk in my world. My son's a contractor, right? So I'm like, who can I tell? Because they could be so excited, So as people came up to my booth that I had seen years past, I'm like, guess what? Because I was so honored and so excited. That it kind of felt like, if you're running a race and you cross the finish line, like, for it's been since I got the equipment in 2019, so it's been like 6 years. And for me, it's not about the money, it's about helping people get well, and I give a lot of it away. I mean, and when people call me and I just have a guidance, I feel like God's telling me, what, just take care of this person. David, the little boy I developed it for in the beginning, he's never paid for anything. He's been on it for 10 years. My heart is to pay it forward and help people. And it's interesting how the doors just open up when you're in the right place. And so, it's not about the money. I don't actually need the money. It's about helping people get well. So you can operate from a different place when your heart's in the right place. It's not about, all that stuff. It's like, I don't really care about that stuff. So yeah, but I'm really excited to be in the book. I can't wait for it to come out. Can I have the first copy? Will you autograph it?
Oh my gosh, if I see you, yeah, if I see next time I see you, yeah, I'm gonna ask for a copy. I'm gonna ask
Yeah.
for your signature.
Oh, that's funny. I was talking about her signature. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I could have little books sitting at the Western Price conference next year.
Oh, are you thinking of writing a book in regards
No,
to?
oh no, I'm just saying I could have a little pile of her books.
Oh, okay,
With
yeah.
the page open and go, look, I'm famous.
Like or like with your name.
Yeah.
I wanted to do something like that. It was pretty corny. I wanted to do that with both Sally Fallon Morell and Tom Cowan, but I got too shy. I just got too shy. I would have been like, but it's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, a funny side thing. I actually saw Tom Cowan leaving the airport, and I don't think about things. I just do. And
Yeah.
so he doesn't really know me. I just went, bye. I was like, bye. And and his face, if I were to show you what his face looked, he went like this. He was like,
That would be typical. Yeah. I was just at the ALS conference in Las Vegas, like, a week ago. And he was one of the presenters, one of the doctors there. And, you know, he walked by me at least 50 times, and every once in a while I wanted to go, hi, but he kind of look over and then keep walking. Like, I don't think I want to talk about that. Yeah. He's a good guy. His heart's in the right place. And they were saying they've got over 90 patients now that have been healed, reversed ALS from their 47-point protocol, which is amazing. Yeah.
Wait, how is that so? That's another
Yeah,
second. How is that so?
yeah, they have a 47-point protocol for ALS patients to heal, and one of them is gut health, and another is eating properly. Because everyone that I talked to that was there, because they had their caretakers, they had the patients there and the doctors, and they all ate processed foods. And they said, number one thing, you have to get off processed foods. You cannot eat processed foods and expect to recover. So anyway, and then you got to restore your gut, and you have to eat the proper foods, and all those things. But yeah, that was like the number one thing, is what goes into your face. You need to be mindful of that. And if you think of yourself as a plant, you have to fertilize yourself with the right stuff, and it's not McDonald's.
As delicious as it was, RIP to McDonald's. I don't think I'll ever
Oh
step in
yeah,
one again.
no, no, no. I mean, I used to in the day. My favorite was oh, what's that? Not Taco Bell. Jack in the Box. Jack in the Box mystery tacos. I don't know what that meat was with the cheese or whatever it was, but they were really good. And then I look at it one day, I'm like, what are you eating? I have no idea. It doesn't look like meat, doesn't look like cheese, but it tasted good. And, I look back in my past and how I raised my son, and, life has totally, totally changed as I became educated and, saw people dying from what they were doing. My father died from Lewy bodies, and he ate sugar and carbs. And I made him a hat one time that said, "This hat stops at all Taco Bells," because my mom thought that he was eating right, and he said some choice words to me. But I watched him die and disintegrate um, because of what he put in his mouth. And that, I said, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And at the very end, he's like, I changed my mind. I don't like this. I can't hardly walk. I can't do all those things. And, you know, at some point, turning it all around is way more difficult than stopping in the middle and going, I'm going to change what I'm doing because I don't want to disintegrate, um, and die in pain and not being able to function or not even know who you are anymore.
That's a great question. I have actually, there are two questions I was thinking. I have like questions here, but I also have questions like that I think of while you're talking. Oh, yeah, yeah. So actually, that's a great question. So I'm going to start off with, I'm just going to say this out loud so that I don't forget the second question. I was going to ask you how you if you'd like to share any tips on how you eat and how you eat and drink.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to hold that. And
Okay.
then this first question is um, just like I guess kind of off the side, but it could also relate to gut health. What do you think are some of the main causes of Alzheimer's disease, dementia, schizophrenia, or some of the chronic illnesses you tend to see in most senior adults?
Um, One thing they all have in common is refined foods, sugar, 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 and more sugar. I don't have one client that I see that doesn't have an addiction. And my dad, for instance, we owned he called it a cocktail lounge. I called it a bar in Pismo Beach. And that was part of the lifestyle, go down, have some drinks, eat popcorn, go out to dinner, shoot some pool. And when he quit drinking, he went to sugar. And so there's a pancreas issue there, right? That sugar thing. And so every person that I know, without exception, that's had a brain issue of whatever it is, has been related to their diet, sugar and carbs. And so by restoring the gut, which I have done with people, it's like, but I always ask them, do you want to live or die? And they look at me really funny when I ask them that question, but I'm like, no, I need to know what you want so I can support you in the right way, because don't tell me you want to live and then eat like you want to die. I mean, we were created beautifully, and the food or the nutrition that's supposed to feed our bodies grows and is alive. And if man gets a hold of it and they process it and they put it in a box and put all kinds of words on it, you don't know, your body doesn't know either. It's toxic to the body. So if you want to be healthy, I mean, we're mind, body, and spirit. So I'm not going to say that food's the only thing, because if you think nasty, wicked thoughts all day long, that's going to affect your emotions also. I'm just studying actually holographic blood right now with the Bigsley brothers. And it's very interesting because his dad, Harvey, did blood analysis, and you can actually see holographic pictures in the blood. And it related back to food also. So, they could look at it and say, are they acute? Are they chronic? What are you eating? And that thing comes up over and over and over. We're designed to eat live foods, as fresh as possible, without toxins, without pesticides, without all those things, because the body doesn't know what to do with that. You wouldn't put that on your vegetable garden. Here, let's grind up some McDonald's burgers and we'll sprinkle it around, get some protein in there. So I think your food source is vital to your terrain and your mind and your gut working. They always talk about the gut brain axis, right? So if your gut's not right, your brain's not going to be right. And that's why the doctors are using the BumBiotics for restoring the microbiome in the kids, because now their brains start to work again. And that there's proof right there. It's like, oh, but then you have to look at our society, and we really have sick care. We don't have health care. There's way more money in trying to get somebody healthy, and then just like cancer, chemo and radiation. You hope that it kills the cancer cells before it kills you. I had a client who had lung cancer, stage 4, metastasized to her brain. I pick her up every week after her appointments for chemo, give her a colonic to get the poison out of her. We put her on live foods, organic, healthy water, all of those things. And it metastasized to the brain. I went to the doctor with her, and, I said, if we can get her immune system working, is there an alternative to radiating the brain, because she'd be dead in 6 months? And he said, yeah, we could do gamma knife surgery and pinpoint the radiation only to the tumor, not to the whole brain. Long story short, 3 months later, she called me and she said, the oncologist called me and I am cancer free. I owe you my life. And I said, no, you owe me to stay well. You owe me not to go back smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, eating refined sugar, doing all that stuff. That was her lifestyle. And she said, nobody ever told me that would make me sick, because we grow up with seeing it on television. Everybody likes to go to fast foods, eat fast, don't chew. And so most people aren't educated. Your first stage of digestion is your saliva in your mouth. And you're supposed to chew until think of your mouth like a juicer. Chew it well, so that, it takes like 20 minutes for the pancreas to secrete enzymes. So meanwhile, if you're not chewing well, and people get gassy and bloated and they think it's the vegetable, no, you didn't chew your food like you need to chew, so that you don't have that, and then your body can utilize all the nutrition, because we're like a plant. We need nutrition. You don't need food. Most of our food isn't nutrition anyway. So
I'm thinking of which question to ask next. Oh, yeah, okay. Where where will we see BumBiotics in the future?
I was on Amazon in the beginning, and I pulled it out of there. I do have a few nutritional stores I'm in, but most of the retail outlets I pulled out of, because it's important to me that they're in a place where people care. And yeah, so you'll find them. There's a list on the website, bumbiotics.com, of practitioners and doctors that carry them. But I want them in the hands of people who understand what it's about and how to help people, and not just to make a buck. I'm not interested in, doing that. I actually had Shark Tank call me a couple of years ago. Yeah, two times, and they wanted, to work with BumBiotics and stuff, and they interviewed me, and I interviewed them, and we went back and forth, and proposing a great deal. And I talked to my son; he's very wise, and I said, "What do you think?" And he said, "Mom, do you want to be associated with Home Shopping Channel? You pulled out of Amazon. Why would you want to be associated with Shark Tank?" And I said, "You're right," and I turned him down. I said, "How'd you find me anyway?" And they said, "We have a team of people who are on the internet looking for innovative products that we feel are marketable, that have science and make sense. And that's how we found you." So about 6 months later, they called and said, "You sure you don't want to?" And I'm like, "No, I'm sure. Thank you. I'm flattered." But for me, it's more of a one-on-one experience. So for practitioners to be able to sell BumBiotics or have them, available to their patients or clients, there's a small application they fill out, and then I review that and, decide, is this person going to represent the heart properly? That do they care about people? So, you're never going to see them in Bonds or, Walmart or Costco, and not on Amazon anymore. It took me like 6 months to finally get out of there. They don't let you go easily. But, it's going to be more of a mom and pop, people who care about each other situation. Yeah.
It feels much more wholesome when I buy directly from the website.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I have control, and I have people call me all the time to talk to me about a situation, things like that. My daughter-in-law said to my son one time, "Your mom can't talk to everybody that calls her on the phone." And my son said, "You don't know my mom. She will spend as much time as she needs and talks to every single person, because she stops for the one." So, that's my heart. And it's about helping people. It's not about, you know, how much money I'm going to make at the end of the month. That's irrelevant, actually. It's how many people can you help? And when people call and they say, "Guess what?" And they tell me their story, I think, "Thank you. You made my day." And I start crying, because it's like, I'm doing the right thing, right? It's not about the money. It's about stopping for the one and helping people get well, because there's not enough of that. We need to be more like a family in this world. Yeah, it's a test, because you see, like Tom's toothpaste and all these companies, that were viable and healthy and all that stuff, and then they sell out to the big companies and they change the stuff that's in it, and people don't really understand or actually know that the company's been sold. And the integrity, I mean, I see it all the time. The integrity is lacking in the product because they need to make an extra dime. I have people ask me all the time, "How come nobody else is making probiotic suppositories?" I laugh. I'm like, how much work it is, and time, and growing the probiotics and doing all this stuff. And yeah, some big conglomerate is not going to do it. If they are, they're going to charge you $300 for a month, not 90. Because they, it's not shelf stable. I mean, they have to be frozen for insertion purposes, because there isn't any synthetic stuff. It's just coconut water, coconut oil, spring water, and probiotics. That's it. So you can't leave it on the shelf. It has to be in the freezer. So we call it bumsicles, because it's cold. And you get used to it. My butt doesn't even know it's cold anymore. It's normal.
What's it called? Like an ice bath for your butt.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel like it doesn't. Yeah, if it's just a new sensation, like it doesn't feel painful or anything. It's just cold.
Yeah,
That's
just
all.
and just for a little bit. It doesn't stay cold, it's just like cold, but I don't even know it's cold anymore. I was like, okay, I can do it walking down the hall. Some people have to make a big ceremony out of it, and I know this one lady gets a bowl of ice, and she peels it and she puts it in there and carries it to the bathroom. I'm like, whatever works. I mean, to me, it takes like 2 seconds. Boom, we're gone. Let's go.
Oh, I forgot to mention, it's the Bagelsons, the Bagelsons.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is that the first time you've heard them at the Weston A. Price
Yeah,
conference or?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Adam. So I'm taking their holographic blood course, and I was just on Zoom with them today from 11 to 1. And, it's fascinating because it's a whole different paradigm, really, in looking at bacteria and fungus and pleomorphism and, all that kind of thing, which I am trained in live and dry blood analysis. And actually, so Josh said, did you get the microscope from Steve Denk, who I trained with in Chicago? And I said, yeah. And he goes, do you want to sell it? They don't make them like that anymore. And I said, and I've had it for like 12, 14 years. I wondered why I'm kept it, right? So now I know it's to be able to look at blood with these guys. So I'm excited about, you know, that a new aspect of how to look at healing, and that bacteria and fungus is our friend and not something that we're trying to get rid of. So we'll see. I'm getting smarter all the time.
Oh, are there any tips you would like to give to the collective in regards to your daily practices? And this can be gut health, this could be overall well-being, personal wellness, but any tips and or advice you would give to the collective?
Oh, you know, I come from the 80-20 plan. And if I expect 100% of myself every day, then I would be disappointed, because things show up. And so I give myself lenience to have an 80-20 plan, because I travel with an inner healing ministry team also. I'm in situations sometimes where I can't eat right, so I pray over my food. I'm like, God, make me healthy with this. You can't always do the right thing. And so I pray over my food. I religiously go outside and stick my feet in the dirt every single day, for 10 to 20 minutes to, they call it earthing or grounding. I do have a grounding mat in my house. And, drinking good water. I have a distiller. Not everybody can, buy a distiller, but I distill my water and then add the minerals back into it. And get sunshine. Got to have sunshine, vitamin D every day. I have a red light therapy like sleeping bag. I try to do that for 25 minutes every day. I have a hyperbaric chamber. I have a relaxed sauna. I mean, I have all the toys, and I'm actually going to start a new business. It's going to be a detox circuit. I live 10 acres out on a lake, and I have a workshop downstairs that I'm remodeling. It's like 2,000 square feet. So I'm going to do like a circuit down there. So people will come in and they'll rebound, get their lymphatic system moving. And then, I'll probably muscle test. So I'm trained in kinesiology, and then do a foot detox bath on them. And I'm actually doing people now, clients of mine, just as experiment to see how it goes. So they'll do that and then do an AO scan. So, testing frequencies in the voice, what's missing and what's too high, too low. So do that while they're doing, so I'm stacking them. So while they're doing the bath on their feet, they're listening to the AO scan. Then they go into the red light therapy. They're listening to their tones then. Then they go into the hyperbaric chamber for an hour. And I usually put something educational on for them, about whatever, something that they need based on their challenges, not what I think they need. And then from there, they go into the relaxed sauna. And for 20 minutes and get it all hot and sweaty, and then deep plunge into the shower. And then after that, they get a green juice or a truffle or something healthy, because I make like raw cheesecake and truffles and maple fudge brownies, all kinds of healthy sweet treats. And my grandkids even like them. So they got to be okay. And so I give them treats like that. Raw cheesecake, that's my favorite. So I give them a treat like that so they can see at the end, like, wow, they do ground before they go into the hyperbaric chamber. So I have some new toys coming, and, just looking at the body and what does it need to have to go back into homeostasis. But, water is huge. You need to be drinking water every day, not only because you're mostly water, but because you need to flush out the toxins and things out of your body. And if you're not drinking water, you know, it's, you become constipated. And I see a lot of that constipation. So yeah, just trying to stay balanced. And then emotionally, so the AO scan has frequencies after you scan your voice that you can listen to. And it takes 12 minutes to listen to all four sets of tones that helps bring homeostasis to your emotional state. So, mind, body, and spirit. And we need to get them all, I think, to have balance in your body.
How important is it to have a spiritual connection to your body?
Mm. I see our body as a tabernacle that we were given to live in. And um, I think that our if you're in tune to your body, you can get your own answers. Your body's talking to you. In fact, when you have a dis-ease, some pain, something or other, a headache, I don't care what it is, to me that's your body's way of communicating to you and telling you, I'm not okay in here. And what do? We give it a Tylenol or an Advil, something like that, to mask the pain. um, we put band-aids on stuff instead of going in and going, okay, body, like I'll talk to my body all the time. I'm like, so what's going on? And it's like, I'm tired, you're overworking me. We need a day off. That's my big one. I'm like, I am so sorry. Guess what? Let's let go of that. And I promise, and my body goes, I don't believe you for a second, right? Because you're going to be off to the next thing, your detox circuit or whatever it is. Like, we need a day off. So actually I do in Los Angeles a naturopathic doctors conference. Mark Hayes is president of the ANMA in California, so he invited me to exhibit at their conference, the 5th, 6th, and 7th in like Beverly Hills. But the next day I am leaving for Aruba till the 20th of December. So I'm like, see, body, I'm taking you on vacation. And we're going to go on vacation. And I have a beach house sitting right on the water in Aruba. And we're going to be there for 13 days. So, see, it's on the calendar there. So, give me some grace here. We got to keep working so we can go and have everything all ready. But I think it's important to, when your body's talking to you, and having symptoms, that you recognize it and don't want to just put a band-aid on it. It's like, what's going on with you? Are you, you know, having that relationship and understanding that we're mind, body, and spirit, and we're not separate. Sometimes we look at ourselves as separate from those things, but it's all one. And to me, it's a way of my body communicating to me. And if I don't pay attention to it, the next thing I know, my head won't turn, or it just keeps getting worse because I'm ignoring um, the stresses. Yeah.
I'll be honest, it sounds easy. It sounds like an easy concept, but
Yeah.
with kind of the environmental factors around, I mean, most of us live in urban, suburban areas. And then also, like, this is very recent for me to actually feel the sensation of conscious awareness, of mindfulness in the body. Like
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes I consciously have to remind myself, wait, go back, because it actually sometimes can physically feel like the spirit is out there.
Mm-hmm.
And while you're just kind of like the body becomes a soldier almost,
Mm-hmm.
like unconscious soldier that doesn't know what it's doing while the spirit's out there.
Yeah,
Does
like
that
a
make
robot.
sense?
Yeah, like a robot. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
our ego is telling this thing, what it needs to do, how it needs to feel, all those things. I took actually several meditation courses with Dr. Joe Dispenza. And if you don't know his story, it's amazing because he was paralyzed from an accident and walks and talks and chews gum. And he's amazing. And people wanted to know, how did he heal his body? And so through meditation, but like you think of meditation, there's lots of concepts about meditation, but actually going inward, and connecting with your spirit and whoever you believe, God for me, connecting with God in my body and, envisioning what I want instead of most people are always envisioning what they don't want and thinking about what they don't want, which is huge. I mean, I see clients all the time and their life is exactly what they tell me about all the time. Oh, I'm this, oh, I'm that. I'm like, yeah, well, what if you were to change what you say about yourself and take that energy, because thought creates matter, right? Life and death is in the power of the tongue. So if we take all of that energy and focus on gratitude, which is a very high frequency. The other day, my suppository equipment broke, right? My filling station in the middle of filling. And I'm like, oh, okay, but instead of focusing on all the things that could happen, I thought about all the possibilities and gratitude about, wow, at least I got 1,000 more months done before, that kind of thing versus, there's some done me wrong song all the time, which you hear from everybody when people talk about themselves. What do they tell you about? All their problems. Well, what if we changed how we thought? And that's what Dr. Joe did. And he changed and he envisioned himself, his spine and the spinal cord reattaching and all the nerves, because he was a chiropractor. So all the nerves going and growing back together. And they did. And so I've been in conferences with people doing remote healing and stuff. And, he's actually working with San Diego State, and the researcher and scientist guys all are there at a lot of the different shows, and they are monitoring people. So putting things on their head, doing EEGs, EKGs, they're doing all this, showing scientifically that meditating and focusing on what you want makes physical changes in the body. They've proven that. There's a movie called The Source out. You can watch it. And it shows all the scientific research. There's a new one coming up with updates because that's about 2 years old or so, the research on it. But the current research proves that. So then you think about every day of your life when you're talking about negative things, what are you bringing to yourself? So if you can catch yourself and stop it, and I say that out loud to myself. Sometimes I go, stop it. I have a blue and gold macaw, Albert. You might be able to hear him in the background. He's out there talking. And so now he says to myself, stop it, stop it. What are you thinking? Stop it. He says, and I'm like, okay, I'll stop it. That loop that you do in your brain. I'm like, I'm not going to think like that anymore because it's detrimental to your health. Or people say, well, my mom had that, so that's why I have it. No, it might be genetic, but you don't have to create the same thing just because it happened already. You can change what you eat, you can change what you think, you can change your environment, right? So all of those things can change and the outcome's going to change. So we need to start taking more accountability, at least for me, for what I think and what I say, and use my words to create life and not death, a positive outcome. Mm-hmm.
It's like releasing identity or the identification of like you to something else.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, this would go into a great conversation about the power of belief.
Yeah. And there's a lot
Um,
of good books out there, I mean, they've been talking about it. The challenge is, where's the science behind it? And that's what Dr. Joe now is presenting, is the science behind the belief. And proving, it's not just woo-woo. It's actually real. We can show science now that what you think about, you bring about.
yeah, I saw something from David Hawkins' map of consciousness, like the chart.
Yeah. Yep.
It's crazy. It's
It,
amazing.
it is amazing. And it shows how powerful you can be, right? Yeah. And when you're not, then you're responsible for that too, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Nobody's going to do it for you. I tell my clients, they come in and I have this one person who ended up having a stroke, but he only come and see me when he was sick and give him a colonic and get him back on his horse, and anyway, then the family calls me one day because he had some major health challenges. Anyway, and I tell him, I said, you know what? I said, if I could do it for you, it'd be done already. I mean, you wouldn't be in this position. You know what to do. But unless you do it, I can't do it for you. So many people want, somebody else to fix them, but really it comes from within. You go back to the mind, body, spirit thing. It's like, and I had this lady who used to come to see me. She'd fall down all the time, so I give her cross crawling exercises. And I said, tell me about when you fall down. And she was from Oregon. I'm in California. So she drove a while. And she said, well, I said, what happens when you fall down? She goes, well, I end up in the hospital. And then my whole family comes to see me. And then she said something. She goes, it's the only time I really ever get to see my family. Because normally there's a carrot, right? Sometimes we create things in our life because there's something positive that comes out of it. And I said, what do you think about having like a family reunion instead of falling down? And it never dawned on her that possibly she was creating that because unconsciously, so that she could be with her family. And when she woke up to that, she never had that challenge again. So that's how powerful we are. And we don't even know that we're doing that, right? I mean, you don't think of yourself like that.
You are an inspiration. Truly.
I've been around a long time.
What is something that working at BumBiotics, well, being the owner of BumBiotics, showed you, which you perhaps weren't aware of before?
Hmm. I think the connection to mind, body, and spirit. Just because, let's say 80% of your immune system's in your large intestine, and you do all the right things and you do all that stuff. Um, there's synergy between your thoughts, your emotions, and your physical. That we're not just, one piece, and that we do have control over our health, or I'm going to say our thoughts and our emotions are definitely, there's a correlation to our health. If those aren't healthy, you're not going to be totally healthy. So even though I can get somebody's gut working and, we do a microbiome test on it before and after and everything's working, if their emotional body isn't in the right place, you're still going to have challenges. They need to have joy in their life. Find something that's joyful, that makes them happy, that makes them smile. And that has to come from within. Somebody else can't do that for you. So for me, I would say my love language is being in service, and I'm happiest when I'm being in service. You take that away from me and then I get grumpy, so creating BumBiotics and managing the company, I'm being in service to people. And I feel very grateful that I have that because, I'll be 69 next month and people say, well, why aren't you retired? And you did. And I'm like, retired from what? I mean, I love what I do. I love helping people. And I think that a lot of people in this world don't have the joy and the gratitude in their life. And so they're missing that emotional component to their healing. So, yeah, I can see that better now, being in the position I'm in.
That's fantastic because I've found myself, whether it's with health or other things, if the joy isn't attached to the healing process, if I don't see myself gradually getting more happier and joyful each time, I go back. It's like you could call it karmic or regression, but Interesting. Yeah, the joy and the gratitude they have to be involved in
Mhm.
the healing.
Yeah. Being thankful every day for what you have, not looking at what you don't have. I always think the glass has to be half full, not half empty. And a lot of people, you listen to them talk, and you can just see what's wrong with them just by listening. They'll tell you just by, their verbiage and how they speak about life and people. And forgiveness is huge. That's something that people don't look at in their health. Is like, are you holding resentment in your body? You know, um, and that can cause if you look at the word disease, dis-ease, right? And if you're holding resentment in your body, you're creating dis-ease in your own body. And much less, what good is it? I mean, I have a niece, and she called me a couple of years ago, and she said, I want to apologize to you for, and she was telling me all this stuff, and I'm like, I didn't even know about that. But the person it was hurting was her, right? Because she was holding resentment for something I wasn't even aware of. And I said, I did what? And so it was hurting her, not me. I didn't even know about it. So when you think about, how you feel about somebody, or somebody did something or whatever, you're really actually causing disease in your body and not theirs at all, because they most likely don't even know.
This conversation is very healing. Thank you.
My pleasure. It's healing for me too.
Hmm. Well, let's see. I think I think I'm ready for kind of like the final question, and the final
Okay.
question is just, do you have any last words for the listener?
Hmm. I am very user friendly. So, and I love helping people. So, if anybody wants to call me or talk to me about anything, I'm here for you. I'm here to support your journey wherever you are without any judgment. I travel with a pastor who likes French fries and has health issues and all these things, and she says, I just love you because I know, even though I'm eating this French fry right now, that you're not judging me. I'm like, you know what? I mean, it's you, right? And I'm not here to. I see some of my clients once in a while, and they might be drinking a Diet Coke or something, and we're at someplace and they hide it, right? I'm like, you know what? That's on you. That's not on me. Like, I have no judgment, but don't come in and tell me, I blah blah blah. So, yeah. So, yeah. Feel free to reach out anytime. I'm happy to be in service and to help if I can. And yeah, all my contact, my cell phone's on my website, bumbiotics.com. There's an 800 number, it goes right into my cell phone also. So you call either number, doesn't matter, or email or text. And I, if I don't answer, it's because I'm asleep. And it doesn't matter if it's a weekend or 10 o'clock at night. If I'm up, I'll answer the phone.
Thank you so much for joining me. This
Thank
has
you.
been,
It's a pleasure. I'm not even nervous anymore. I'm like, okay, I'm okay. I lived through this. It's all right.
oh, you're a natural. You're a natural.
One of my clients said, you have no problem talking, so I don't know what you're worried about. You just got to get me going. Thank you so
So,
much, Victoria.
oh yeah. One more question. Sorry. You said you naturally don't do podcasts or
Well, lately, this is maybe my second or third one I've done in the year, but in the last 6 years, who wants to do a podcast about a suppository? I mean, in the United States, it's not something that people talk about. Their butts are sacred, right? So we don't talk about those kinds of things. And I remember I was studying homeopathy in Hong Kong, and the doctor, Dr. Nelson, and we had an interpreter from Singapore, and he starts talking about fecal matter and what it's supposed to look like and if it's supposed to float and all these things. And all of a sudden, the interpreter got quiet, and he wasn't interpreting, right? And Dr. Nelson says, what's going on? He goes, oh, we don't talk about those things in this country. So he wouldn't interpret any of that. And I see the United States kind of like that in the past 5-6 years, right? And now it's becoming, a little more, there's more awareness to the microbiome, the gut, and how that actually restores the brain, your immune system, all of those things. So it's more in the public eye. So I think that's maybe why, why I've done more. I'm getting brave. Yeah, people want to talk about it and bring it out, where in the past it was like, behind closed doors. So I think that's, that. And, I'm growing up to be a big girl now. So maybe modern technology, all that, I'm like, oh, do what? Oh, no. So, yeah, but thank you. It's been a pleasure. And you've made it very, very comfortable for me. So, yeah, you're a joy. And I love your smile, your heart. I can feel your heart. It's just, you're so full of joy. And that's beautiful to see.